Today I'm going to be talking about my summary of learning and my learning story in ECS 210. Curriculum has been a major focus in the course, and over this video I'm going to discuss a bunch of different topics and subjects we've talked about in regards to the curriculum, starting with the definition of curriculum itself. I remember the very first day we sat in class, we were asked to do a quick think, pair, share activity about what curriculum is. Here are some of the answers that we came up with. Now here is the actual definition of curriculum. I would like to say that we had a pretty bang-on idea about what curriculum was. We also learned about the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is basically the things that we learn in school that are not necessarily subject matter. Things like learning about our emotions, learning how to deal with grief, learning friendship, learning values, learning morals are all included in the hidden curriculum. Learning both of these definitions, it was crazy to me that I still didn't know everything there was about curriculum, and that this would be a very crazy semester learning about all of the things that has to do with curriculum. Starting with the history. Now, the history was definitely the uglier side of curriculum, and it was a little different than I expected it to be. One person we learned about in particular was a man named Franklin Bobbitt. He is on the bottom left. Bobbitt was the founder of the curriculum, and he was also considered to be the father of the curriculum. For a founder, he definitely had an interesting approach to curriculum because he believed that education and curriculum was something that could be scientifically managed. He also taught with a scientific approach that was considered to be very factory model-like. Next, another influential person I'm going to talk about is Ralph Tyler, who is in the bottom right. Tyler also provided a more scientific model of development that was very rational, but it was still not 100%. Both of these men were considered to have a great influence on the curriculum, and even were considered to be a bit biased towards core subjects like math, science, social studies, and English. And although their theories did make sense, they were definitely geared to a factory model-like school approach with the intention to create miniature adults and put good citizens in the workforce, which I will talk about later. Also, in learning about the history, I got to do an assignment that I looked into two different curriculum theorists and got to write an essay about my views and philosophies and how they align with theirs. Doing this, I came across a man who was very interesting and had a very creative and ahead of his time view on the curriculum. John Dewey is a very important man when it comes to inquiry learning, which is something I believe in because he is one of the first people who advocated for this type of learning and put it into his practice. His ideas of how people learn were very different for his time and went against the more common sense approaches of many other educational theorists we have discussed in this class, Tyler and Bobbitt being very much examples. So I definitely connected with John Dewey's ideas and definitely had a light bulb moment when I learned about him. Moving on, curriculum and the good citizen. This is something that we learned about that I never really thought about. This is a concept developed that touches on the idea of how the curriculum has an element where it allows students to learn, but with that being said, it has more to it. The curriculum also wants to bring students to a point where they are able to be in a better place and can become better citizens. This kind of touches back to Tyler and Bobbitt's theories about the curriculum preparing students for miniature adulting in life and wants to prepare them to be good citizens in the future. With that being said, the curriculum wants to create these types of things to make good citizens. Build strong relationships, learn through self-discovery, and developing different ways of thinking and learning about different backgrounds and working together. Moving on to probably the most scary part of my story and my journey throughout learning about the curriculum was the shocking surprise I learned about after reading an article in week 6 that was posted. Now, I didn't realize that the government had any power when creating the curriculum. I thought it would specifically be teachers, principals, and people in the school system. It was my surprise that the government actually does have a little bit of power when coming to decisions about the curriculum. The government is responsible for what subjects are included and excluded, as well as the specific content in both those subject areas. These are two very big aspects of the curriculum, if you ask me, and I personally think it is crazy to have this much power in these two aspects of the curriculum. So this was a very shocking part of the history of the curriculum for me to learn about, but my mind did get eased when learning about the next assignment that we did. Although that was a scary thing to learn about, one of the other assignments we had in this course that helped me ease my thoughts and nerves about this topic was the curriculum critique. When I did the curriculum critique, I chose to analyze grade 9 arts education curriculum, and it was to my surprise that since the curriculum was written in 2009, it was relatively new and worked with new methods of learning that I think were fabulous, and I don't think you find in many other subject areas of the curriculum. The first one being inquiry learning, and the second one being First Nations content. Inquiry learning I kind of touched on in the John Dewey slide, but inquiry learning is experimental based learning, which is a really awesome way for students to be able to learn. And incorporating First Nations content is also a really important thing, which I will talk about later on, because First Nations history is so important within an arts ed curriculum. It was very important to me, and it was awesome because I find that teachers will actually do things that they find in the curriculum. So although I had just learned about how government has stance and authority in the curriculum, this was something that helped ease my mind and refreshed it, because I know that these are very important things for us to learn about. Moving on, the next important element I learned about over the course of my ECS 210 journey was the importance of Indigenous education and incorporating into my lessons. Now, there is so much I can say about Indigenous education and incorporating it into the curriculum. I don't even know where to start. I would say the main reason why I think it is important to learn about is because there is so much history living in Canada, especially for those of us who are living in Regina, Saskatchewan in particular. We live on Treaty 4 territory, and it is important for everyone to understand from a young age where we live and the history behind it. There's so many places in the world that a person can go to see historical sites, but a lot of people don't realize the history and the importance of the history that happened within our own backyard, essentially. So it is my duty to teach students that we are all treaty people from a young age and incorporate Aboriginal content into any of my subject areas as possible, because it is a very important topic to learn about and realize from a young age. Now, overall, at the end of my journey, it is clear to see that over the past 3 months, I've gained a ton of new knowledge and insight about the curriculum when talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. What I've realized is this document is essentially a living, breathing thing that is changing as I will change myself when I am a teacher. So I will have to learn to grow with it. So I'm glad that this class gave me the opportunity to realize these things and open my mind to be able to move forward with it in my teaching. I hope you enjoyed my summary of learning, and these are just some of the main things I learned. Thank you.